Hello friends, welcome back to a brand new video. Today I am back here in Genshin Impact because I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today, and that is my very first ever guide slash tutorial style video. And that first video is 4-star characters that I think everybody should build. Now, of course, feel free to take everything I say with a grain of salt, but having built most, if not all of these 4 stars on my account, I have had zero regrets building them, so that's why I am super excited to share them with you today. So, let's get started. Now, the first character, I'm sure you can already see her adorable face. She is right here, and it is Aino. If you have a Nodcry team, she is one of the best in slot 4-star supports you can use for any Nodcry character, that being Flint, Nefer, anybody else that you want to use. She is also a lot less expensive than some of the 5-star supports that you can get, such as Yanfei or Lauma, if you don't have enough pulls for them. She acts as a fantastic hydro applicator for Lunar Bloom or Lunar Charge teams, and in the future I think Lunar Crystallize when Sebai comes out. To build her, all you really need is this 4-piece set. The stats literally don't even matter because all you need from it is this 4-piece bonus. When you have her and another Nodcry character on your team, this buff will activate, and it increases all party members' lunar damage by 10%. This might not sound like a lot at first, but it also increases their elemental mastery by 20. And by giving it energy recharge, this means that her burst can almost always be active because it actually does not require that much energy. And because its cooldown is shorter than its duration, it means it can technically have a 100% uptime if you match your cycle correctly. You don't really need her constellations, but if you want to maximize your damage, having her C6 is actually really good because of this 20% increase. I myself, unfortunately, do not have her C6, but in the future, I really hope I can get it. For her weapons, pretty much anything with elemental mastery will work, but this weapon from an event, I think it was a Nodcry event. If you were here during any time during the Nodcry event, you probably will have this weapon at R5, which is fantastic because it increases all different types of lunar damage and restores elemental energy, and even can be triggered off field, which is fantastic. Again, when it comes to her talents, you really don't need to level anything aside from her burst if you just want her to be a meddling hydro applicator. But that is Aino. I think also in this video I'm probably going to be showing side by side to show you just how great Aino actually is with my personal Nodcry DPS, Flint, because I don't have Nefer or Lauma. Now, my next character on this list is Fischl. A lot of you probably aren't surprised by this pick, and that is because Fischl is one of the best off-field electro applicators in the game. I know that a while ago, during the Inazuma era of Genshin, they tried to power creep her by releasing Yae, but it really didn't work because I don't know what it is about her. I probably have to look into it more, but Yae just didn't achieve the same things that you could by having this 4-star character and Oz. And Fischl is also very versatile. I used to use her a lot in Hyperbloom teams with my Alhaitham. She can also go pretty good in overloaded comps if you have characters like Clarand. And if you don't have a Nefa, you could probably use Fischl in your Flint's team as another electro applicator. She is also capable of doing a lot of damage if you build her in an attack style way. I currently have her on Thundering Fury, but I think a better set for her would be Golden Troop because of that offset damage bonus, or off-field damage bonus, excuse me, but I have only one Golden Troop set and it is on my Freminet. But if you're looking for just that electro buff and damage, Thundering Fury is also a great set for her. I currently have her at C6 because she's one of those Mondstadt characters that I just couldn't seem to get away from. C6 is one of her really great constellations because it does actually extend the duration of Oz on the field by 2 seconds, and it deals her attack as electro damage. Her C1 is also pretty good if you just so happen to stop there, because when Oz is not on the field and Fischl uses normal attacks, an orb will appear and deal damage that is equal to 22% of Fischl's attack. The rest of the constellations in between are kind of alright. You've got the talent increasing ones, but C1 and C6 are really where it's at. For weapons, personally, I kind of have her in between. I keep her on Amos mostly if I'm using my Ganyu because I switch these weapons depending on if she's in my team or not. but if you give her enough attack elemental mastery, she can do great things for your team, no matter how you use her, really. If I'm being completely honest, her burst is okay, I guess. Basically all it does is it just summons like thunder strikes and you can quote-unquote become Oz, but I don't really find myself using it that much. I really revolve around the use of her E. The only thing I will say about her E is the cooldown can be a little bit tough to get used to, but once you figure it out, if you get like in the right cycle, this 25-second cooldown is not the worst thing that exists. My next character pick is probably a shock to no one, and it is Xingqiu. Before Yelan came out, Xingqiu was the guardian of my freeze teams and every single one of my teams in general that involved Hydro, because he is just such a good Hydro applicator for any team that has a main DPS who relies on normal attack damage. So that would be characters like Yoimiya, for example, which is where I would use him a lot. And the only thing really that you need for him is energy recharge. As you can see, I spent a lot of time stacking that up. I've got a lot of it. His best in slot set is probably Emblem. If you want to kind of get some damage out of it, you can also put him on a Hydro Cup, which I did. I also have him at C6, and his talents are okay. The only thing really that mattered to me was his Q, but his E actually does provide a lot of elemental orbs, because even though his energy cost is 80, if you put him on Sacrificial Sword, that literally doesn't even matter. And especially if you have it at R5, this is crazy. That 80% chance, especially when it comes to the cooldown of this, it feels like nothing. I can just show you a clip now of how quickly that energy recharge works, because it is absolutely fantastic.
Rain outlines your fate.
My favorite way to use Xingqiu is definitely on vaporized teams because of, I would say, the damage, but another great place that he would fit is with Ayaka in a freeze team, and as I said earlier, I think he can also do pretty good in a Hyper Bloom team if you have an Electro DPS who relies on normal attacks, or a Dendro DPS like Alhaitham who also relies on normal attacks. A lot of people used to call him the cheap Yelan, and although it sounds bad, he is almost exactly that. He's just so good at Hydro applications. If you do not have too many constellations for him, his C2 is a pretty good place to start because it extends the duration of his burst by 3 seconds and decreases opponents' Hydro resistance. But if you really want to go a long way, his C6 is pretty awesome because when you activate his E skill, his C6 basically can replace the purpose of like energy recharge because it allows him to regenerate his own energy on every last hit of his elemental burst. So even if you basically, you could swap out your Sacrificial Sword because his C6 is kind of doing that for you. You could replace it with another weapon that does more damage if you wanted to, but I always like to be safe, and I love my guy, and the Sac Sword perfectly matches his outfit, and I was like, you know what? That's great. This next pick is also a surprise to no one, as he is a part of the old DPS core thing that I don't remember the name of. It is our boy Bennett. And I am also a chronically old player. I still have not C6 my Bennett, and it has been upwards of 4 years. Bennett has been one of the most crucial supports in the game for ages. He can replace almost any support if the DPS character needs attack, because his burst is just so versatile. It heals and it gives an attack bonus, and the energy cost is not very high. Another great thing about his burst is that his attack bonus does not scale off of attack percent itself, and it only scales off his actual base attack. So nothing from artifacts or set bonuses really matter here because it's only the base attack that he has, which is great. So you could technically stack HP artifacts on him and that attack bonus would still be fantastic. For me personally, I try to always keep him on Noblesse because of this attack boost here when it comes to his burst as well. I think a lot of people have him on Noblesse, but Noblesse is such a versatile set for any support, especially 4-star supports. It's great for them as well. For weapons, I try to focus always on energy recharge when it comes to these guys, so I either have Favonius or Sac Sword on him. It just depends kind of where I'm at, but I do have a lot of Sacrificial Swords and Favonius Swords, so I won't be running out anytime soon. The one thing I will say about Favonius Sword though is if you do not have Bennett built like with a decent amount of crit rate, this buff will not be as good because you have to have a crit hit. If that crit hit generates particles, then it's good, but if you're somebody like if you don't have more than like 30 to 40% crit rate, it might not work for you, and that might be a place where Sacrificial Sword is better. I may have just barely crossed over that line, but he still does what I need him to do, so I'm totally okay with that. And before you start commenting it, yes, I know some of these people are still at level 80 and I'm kind of contradicting myself, but I promise I'm working on it. When it comes to his constellations, of course, you have the controversial one where it infuses sword, claymore, or polearm wielding characters. It infuses their weapon with pyro. This used to be a problem for a lot of the main DPSs back like in Mondstadt and Liyue times, like Eula for example, it would screw with her thing entirely. But because physical damage relies more on superconduct, it wouldn't have been too much of a problem, but I think it's just engraved in my brain that you cannot use Bennett's C6, and I think I'm just going to continue to live like that, because ignorance is bliss. But if you have a character like Mavuika for example, his C6 would probably be very good for her. Another one of his really good constellations if you are more free to play is his C1, because the attack when you lay down his burst, it no longer is limited by HP and it gains an additional 20% of Bennett's base attack, which just makes his burst even stronger. And here is just a quick side-by-side comparison of one of my DPS characters with and without Bennett's attack buff, just to show you how good Bennett really is. My next character may also be a bit of a surprise to you, considering that I have a C2 Zhongli and I've been living with him for a while now. It is Noelle. Noelle is probably one of the first characters that people get if they decide to wish on the beginner's wish banner, and for some reason I still have the wish banner up. She is one of the better 4-star shielders in the game, I would say, besides Lanyan. And because Lanyan has not been on too many banners lately and a lot more people have Noelle, I would say she is a great second place. Noelle's shield does scale off defense, I have it at level 8 right now, but the thing about that is she is not only a shielder, but she is also a healer. Her shield is also great because when she is hitting a target, this has a small chance to regenerate HP for characters when her shield is up. One of her best weapons is actually a weapon that you don't even have to pull for, you literally just forge it at like the Mondstadt or Liyue blacksmith. It is the White Blind because it gives her a great amount of defense, which is great for her shield. Her best in slot set is probably 4-piece husks, but I've been running her on this 2-piece mix and it has been doing pretty well for me. I think 4-piece husks would be good as well if you're trying to do some damage along with having this shield, but for me she was purely a shield, and that's why her only level talent right now is her E. She's also one of the only characters who gets shy when you open her talents, which is really cute. Another fantastic thing about Noelle is that if your active character, any active character in your party, if their HP drops too low, it will create a shield automatically for your character that absorbs 400% of Noelle's defense. My Noelle right now has about just over 2,000 defense, and 400% of that is close to 8,000, so it absorbs 8,000 points worth of her defense on that shield, which is amazing. Although her best constellation is highly considered to be C6, C1 is also great because it really just does a fantastic job in increasing that healing. Not far behind would be this one because it just further increases the talent level of her shield. But the reason why her C6 is so great is because her elemental burst will increase attack based on 50% of Noelle's defense. Although she may not be as absorbent as a character like Zhongli or Lanyan, she is a super great backup, and here is me seeing how much damage she can absorb at the Great Ruinguard Island. Now the last two characters that I'm going to share with you today are actually some great DPSs. First up is Freminet. He is one of my favorite cryo DPSs, probably besides Ganyu and Ayaka, but he's definitely up there. When I got him, I realized that he was kind of like a makeshift Eula because he pretty much does rely on physical damage. Although I don't have it on him right now, one of his better weapons is actually Snowtomb Star Silver. And if you have it as well, you can probably use Skyward Pride or Eula's signature weapon, but I don't have Eula's signature weapon, so yeah. Currently, I do have this one on him because a little bit of attack increase never hurt anybody, but I will say that Snowtomb Star Silver is definitely a better 4-star option for him. And he also can pretty much just rely like any other physical character. Pale Flame, another great set for him would be Blizzard if you want a cryo DPS, but I think a lot of more people run him as a physical unit. And on top of all that, I would just say that he is really just fun and easy to play. And uniquely, he is actually one of the few characters whose constellation increases his normal attack talent. And I will say his burst is also pretty good because when activated, it increases his resistance to interruption, which is great. And it decreases the cooldown of his E skill by 70%, which just means you get a lot more damage out of him. And if you cannot get his C6, a good place to stop is his C2. This is because it increases his energy and lowers the energy requirement for his burst, meaning that you can have it up more often. And of course his C6 is really good because when he triggers any cryo-related reaction, pretty much aside from melt, his crit damage is greatly increased, and it can be max of upwards of 3 stacks. So 12 times 3 is 36, whatever your current crit damage is, it just increased that by 36. So for me, it would be like upwards of 190-ish crit damage, which is really good because my guy is kind of lacking crit damage since I don't really have a weapon that is devoted to him. And here's some gameplay footage of me using Freminet and showing how much I love his kit. And last but certainly not least is Yanfei. I told you we were talking DPS, and I will not let you down. Yanfei is one of my favorite 4-star DPSs, and I know I've said it about like every single character, but she is seriously up there. And just to prove that I mean it, even though right now she has no artifacts on, I literally stopped using Klee because I just liked her gameplay more. And her artifacts are on Klee right now. But if I take them back, you can see truly where her colors would shine. I think Yanfei was actually one of the first 4 stars that I level 90'd in the late game, aside from... No, actually, not aside from anybody. She was like one of the first 4 stars that I leveled to 90, because at the moment, I only have 3, that being Aino, Official, and her. And she was the first one, and I do not regret it at all. She is kind of like Klee in the sense that her gameplay is heavily charge attack focused, but her gameplay is so much less clunky than Klee, and I don't even know what it is. It's just more satisfying, I guess, just to me personally. She is capable of outputting really, really good damage, even with just like a basic Crimson Witch set, and if you pair her with somebody like I mentioned earlier, like Xingqiu or Yelan, she is capable of doing some great vaporized damage. She would also probably do good in some Melt Team comps as well. And one special thing about her is, despite the slightly high energy cost for her E, if you have her at C4, her Q actually summons a shield. And if you couldn't tell, I do like my shield characters, but her shield is actually unique because it absorbs pyro damage more effectively than any other type of damage. And if you have it leveled up high enough like I sort of do right now, you could make your very own Yanfei tank, or as it is called amongst the community, Tankfei. I think I did a video on it in the past, and she actually ended up doing pretty well. So take with that what you will. Her Q, again, aside from the shield, is also still great because when you do it, it gives her these sacred seal stack sort of things that increase her charge attack damage, kind of like a makeshift Klee. And I will mention as well that every time you use a charge attack and her seals are active, she consumes one of them. And with her passive, it increases her pyro damage bonus. I think another reason why I love Yanfei is just because of her versatility. Like, you can build her exclusively as a shielder or exclusively as a DPS, and she will just have so many capabilities that way, even if you just stack HP on her. Another constellation for her, if you cannot reach her C4 or C6 that is really good, is her C1. This is because her seals can reduce charge attack stamina cost and increase her resistance to interruption. And when it comes to her C6, it may look simple, but it is actually really good because by increasing the number of Scarlet Seals, it increases her overall DPS by allowing her to execute more charge attacks and do more pyro damage.
Oh, teamwork is dreamwork. Inadmissible evidence. Boom.
But that does wrap up my little exposition. And on top of all that, I would just say he's also just... Did I say also twice? Noelle is a Geo character whose scale... Well, duh. The next character... Oh, shit. I should probably... Ooh, God, what the hell is going on here? Official is one of the most... I was about to say most best. She acts as a fantastic hydro applicator for hello? But that was the worst intro I think I've ever oh god. His burst is also pretty cool because when you activate it, it resists his interruption to rate. What did I just say?